Hey guys, what is up? Today we're going to be sort of teaching you how to build a team. Okay, and I see this so often where I go on FM group pages. Why is this not working? Why is that not working? And I can see blatant issues every time. Now I'm not going to stand here and say, "Oh, my team's completely perfect," because there's no real completely perfect team build because there will always be someone that can exploit a weakness. Okay, every tactic has a weakness. Um, some are a lot of more obvious than others. So what I want to do is go through the fundamentals with you and try and help you build a team. Now, when you go into a team, first off, you want to kind of look at your players. Now, this is very, very important. You want to see who your goal scorers are going to be. You want to see who your sisters are going to be. Your support players, your defensive players, things like that. So also, I started this save with Liverpool. Mane's injured, otherwise he would be in here. So just for the sake of it, we'll put him there. Okay, so I look at this team right here, and I can tell you my goal scorers are going to be Mane and Salah. Okay, because you look at them, 17 finishing. He's going to score goals this season. 15 in 22 games. Last season, 12 in 29. Okay. Mohamed Salah, obviously, once again, 18 finishing, uh, 15 goals this season, 10 last, but he is also chipping in with a lot of assists as well. But primarily, I've looked at him as the goal scorer. Okay. So next, I look at who's going to provide the sort of assists or the key passes. And for me, for my sake, because my fullbacks are very good, uh, I'm looking at my fullbacks. I'm looking at my ball playing defenders. I'm looking at one deep line playmaker, and I'm looking at a false nine. Okay. Now, what Firmino then does here, he pulls back, which then gives these two space to become the essential strikers. Okay. Now, Firmino, he's not the. So he hasn't got loads of assists. He hasn't either season got loads of assists. He's chipped in with a fair few goals, a fair few assists. But if we look at the stats page, and this is what you want to look at. Okay, I always recommend every season, if you've got a team that can just get through the first season without any transfers, please do so, because you get to really see what your team can do. Now, he succeeds in 91% of his passes. That means if every 100 passes, 91 of them are completed, which is brilliant. Okay, 48 key passes, which is good. That means he's created 48 fairly good opportunities. If we go to our deep line playmaker, Thiago has not played every game this season, but he's played a lot. Okay, 3 assists. He had a lot more last season, but this can happen, which is very regular. Stats: 78 key passes, so he's got nearly double Firmino. So it's showing how integral he is to my squad. 91% again, which is absolutely brilliant. Let's then go to Trent Alexander-Arnold. This season, 9 assists, which is good, very good. Stats: 122 key passes, 89 successful, but you have to remember crosses. They're gonna be lower because they are crossing the ball as well. Trent Robertson. There we go. 8 assists this season, 5 last. He doesn't contribute to goals like Trent does, but in fairness, he hasn't been playing every game this season. I'll show you the other left back in a minute. But 89, similar to Trent, 64 key. So you can see right here, it's my fullbacks and Thiago that are assisting the most. What Firmino's doing is kind of take a step back to kind of support the midfield and keep possession of the ball, which is very important. Mendes has been playing an awful lot this season. He contributes to goals quite regularly as well, but I'll just have a look at him as well. Yeah, he's got more key than Robertson has, and he's played fewer games, I believe. 89 there as well, which is absolutely brilliant. So, right here, what you can then see is my fullbacks. Oh, I didn't have a look at. I'll just have a quick look here. Ignore the goals. I'll talk about that later. But let's have a quick look here because if you've got really good passes of the ball in defence, I'd recommend using them. 14, So yeah, not as much as coming from my centre backs, but that could well lead to 14 goals. 94% passing, which means they're keeping the ball very well. Let's look at Fabinho. No assists, which is absolutely fine. This is nothing bad. 21 key passes. Okay. So that is all absolutely fine. So what we can tell here is my fullbacks are creating the most chances, followed by Thiago in the midfield. When he gets the ball, he's going to make something happen. Firmino does very well, but he kind of drops a bit. That's his main focus. And then from time to time, they'll hit a really good through ball from defence, which is brilliant. Now, you must then be looking at the rest of your team like, well, what does everyone else do? We'll get onto that next, which is the defence. Okay. Now, you'll see I have fullbacks here. The reason is I can... There's an issue with a lot of these, and I feel fullback just gives you the best balance, okay? For example, complete wingback, they could definitely play it, but that leaves your defence so open. You need to have your defenders back, and what fullback does, it brings your defenders back when you do not have the possession, okay? Obviously, I've got these two on cover because high line. They've both got the pace, and that's something I'll get into next because this is going to be a pretty in-depth video. But a very important thing, this is something I see so often with people. They've got no one covering your defence. Your back line, including your goalkeeper, is meant to be the last line of defence. What does that mean? That means you should have something prior to that. If you've got one last bullet in your gun, that means you should have had bullets prior to that. And this is what the lad here does in anchor role position. And Henderson, ball playing even. He's a box to box. He goes forward, helps. He doesn't. Well, actually, what does he do? That's a very good. Yeah, key 42. So yeah, you see here though, he keeps possession of the ball very well. Okay, he wins his fair share of tackles. So 128 tackles. Okay, nearly 2,000 passes, and 22 shots. Okay, so what he's doing, he's not the goal scorer, he's not the assister, he is not the defender, but he supports all aspects of play, going back and forward. Okay, he supports all these aspects, which is very important. However, depending on what you want here, you can have anything from an anchorman, a halfback, you can have what you like, okay? But the point is you need someone who's going to defend that back line. And I like an anchorman. And he's going to shield them, okay? So they're not just going to... Let's say he was up here. Henderson's not a defensive player. Thiago's not defensive, so he'll go straight through them. And then all they have to do is get through our defence. Whereas they have to first get through our lads here and then get through the defence to have a shot on goal. So he acts as cover, okay? And I feel it's very important. So to summarise what we've got there with the team, you want to find your goal outlet. It can be a few players. It can be the striker, it can be the wingers, it can be your midfielder. Anyone in the front level of the pitch here, okay? So let's pretend he was there. It could be any one of the players, okay? You then want some assisters, okay? I'd say a good amount of assisters to have is between 3 and 4, okay? I don't count the defenders as assisters as such because I do believe they need to create a lot of key chances, but you need to identify these areas as you progress through the game. So my goal scorers, also I've got 2 up here. Your goal scorers you should only really have between 1 and 2. You can push it to 3, but I think you're leaving yourself short in other areas. So find your 1 or 2 players who you feel is going to score the most goals. Focus on them. And then find your assisters. Make sure you have a rock in front of your defence. 1 or 2 will be fine. I like to have a support player. That's my preference. And yeah, so that's essentially the team there. The next thing I want to show you is your high line. Now, this is very important, and so many people want to play a high line, but just don't have the players to do so. So you see here, Fabinho, he has 14 pace, 14 acceleration. Van Dijk, he has 15 pace, 15 acceleration. They are capable of playing the Premier League, against strikers. Because what's going to happen? Let's say, or what's a team I don't know very much about? Blackburn. Who have they got up front? Okay, so got this lad. He is not going to outpace my back line, which means the high line will work. Okay, and this is the case for a lot of players. Let me just... Who's Norwich got? This lad. 16. Okay, so he might beat my back line. But that's only a might. Okay? Because my back line is fairly quick. Out of 20 stats, they have between 14 and 15 respectively. And I've got Gomez as well, which is 16 pace. So if I'm coming up against a quick striker, he might play over Fabinho. More physical players, I might use Fabinho. You change your defense accordingly without changing your tactic too much. But as long as you've got fast centre backs, for the most part, you can play a high line. You've got to be cautious for those players that have got like stupid amount of pace, like 18, 20 pace. What's Tammy got? He's all right. Where is Timo Werner? How much has he got? 17.8. So see, Timo Werner could be a problem. He's a good finisher. He's quick. He could definitely get in behind the defence. Run with the ball, knocks it past. So yeah, he could definitely be a very threatful opponent. But that's not the same for everyone. So I like to say, as long as you got over 14 in a stat, I consider it a decent enough stat. I explained fullbacks briefly. So we'll go into all of this then. So you can use the offside trap if you think your players are intelligent enough to play so, and they're playing high line. High intensity, this is great. The only issue is your players will get tired out a bit quicker, and if the opponents are very good at playing the ball like quickly and effectively and accurately, it could definitely backfire. The line of engagement also increases your chances of getting the ball off the opponent from their defenders or the more defensive players. Defensive width. Oh, let's go back on that. It kind of shows you more or less. So, if you're wide, they're going to try and focus down the middle, or at least that's where you'll be your weakest because there's gaps. If you're narrow, that's going to force them out wide, which can cause problems with things like crosses. I like to keep it on standard. That is my personal preference. Counter press, I say, is good for most quick teams. Counter attack. I mean, you want to try and counter when you can if you've got quick players and a few players up the pitch. When possession has been lost, counter press. You can try and catch them, but it does leave your players out of possession. So, out of position. Sorry. You can dispute it quickly if you think you've got a chance of hitting people on the break. So once again, that kind of ties in with the whole pace and playing well. I like to dispute to either my playmaker or defense because then that's more possession for you and a chance to dominate the game. Same with short kicks and all that good stuff. Attack and width. Now, like I said, I want to bring Salah and Mane more inside, so that's why that's narrow. But, if you've got wingers, probably play a bit wider. Play to your team's strengths. I've got 2 attack and fullbacks, so I'm going to look for the overlap. Now, this does not tell them to overlap. It's just alerting my players that there could be an overlap on. I focus down the middle because we're very narrow, and I play out defence. Shorter passing now. Shorter passing essentially it is shorter passing. It's the most accurate chance you have to keep the ball. So if you're playing direct, you'll lose the ball more often than what you would if you're playing it shorter. Just imagine you have a football right now. You've got someone that's 1 meter away, 2 meter, 3, 4, 5. The higher those meters go, the more of a chance you have of missing your target. Higher tempo, once again, that kind of ties in with a very similar thing. If it's too high and your players aren't very good at passing the ball, they're going to give the ball away. So you need to have a fairly good passing team. But you then don't want to play too slow either, because that gives the opponents a chance to get back in position. If you've got good passing players, being more expressive is great. If you want them just to wait for the opportunity, be more disciplined. I personally don't touch it, because then my players can do what I feel they're capable of. If you've got good running and dribbling players, you can run out that defence. You can dribble less if you just want to kind of pass it about a bit more, save stamina. But once again, I like to leave it up to my players. You can play for set pieces if you've got some big lads there and you're probably not the best team. But I'm not a fan of it, because I feel you could potentially lose some key moments in the game if you're playing for set pieces rather than actually trying to go for goal. Work into the box, obviously, is trying to force an opening, but some teams aren't good enough to pass their way through, so shoot on sight's a good idea, or hit early crosses in. And this is one that gets overlooked in the final third, the crosses. Now, I've not got any tall players currently on the pitch, so I prefer low crosses. Honestly, you've got playing space, which if there's space for them to run to, that's what they'll do. So this is obviously for my first team. This is for my home games even. Okay, for most home games, I'll play this system. Now, you might have seen about Van Dijk last season where he scored a lot of goals. That is because my away system is this. Okay, because the away games in this, in FM and in real life, are mentally different to home games. You can't dominate them in the same way, not always. So for these games, essentially what I would then do, I would move Henderson there, because I feel Henderson's just a more overall solid player who can help out defensively as well. Firmino drops into Thiago, and then Giroud would come on, because he is just an excellent target man. Now he's on support because his job is not to score goals, okay? Now if I show you here, he has scored 8 and assisted 3, which is great. But you'll see here 36 key passes, and he's played considerably less games than Firmino. His job's not even to key pass. It's to keep possession of that ball, because it's being booted up to him. So 91% is really good in the system that he's playing. The ball gets booted up to him, and he knocks it down to these 3. Okay, because they're all capable of scoring goals. Obviously, we're mainly looking at Mane and Salah, but Firmino can chip in there as well, which is very important, as well as also create. And you'll see, obviously, the difference in this one is I've got a bit more standard, because the teams we're playing against will be willing to attack a bit more. So I'm not playing offside trap either. You'll see disputes target man, long kicks, because we are not going to be dominating the game. When you get up to Giroud, he'll knock it down to these 3. These are my covers for my defence. And then, as you can see here, extremely direct. We just want to hoof it up there. We want to get that goal. And then, brilliant. Much simpler tactic. But I recommend you have a tactic for your away games, your home games, and then your sort of middle tactic, which is like, we're playing away, or we're playing a team that's not as good as us, so we can afford to take a few more risks and just play good football, essentially, because this is a mixture of the two tactics. But yes, I hope that has been helpful. Before I forget, I'm going to put Diego back. Hope this has been helpful for you. Yeah, and let us know. Have a nice day.